So what I got up to today, um, as part of being a multifamily real estate investor. So today, um, one of the most important things I needed to do was to clarify whether my property fell under the CARES Act. So I know that I don't have any subsidized tenants in there, subsidized housing. The government doesn't pay for any of my tenants' rent, so no Section 8, nothing like that. So I knew from that I didn't have to worry about that. The main concern was the loan, and whether that fell under the CARES Act, whether that the loan itself made my property fall under the CARES Act. And what that would have meant is that you're not allowed any evictions, I think, or to start any kind of eviction process until July 26th. You can evict before, but it has to be for another reason apart from non-payment of rent. But if you are trying to evict someone for non-payment of rent, and your property falls under the CARES Act, you have to wait till at least the 26th of July, and that could be even later. So, obviously it would be quite problematic. Currently I have one tenant that's not paying. They didn't pay last month for the month of May, and I don't suspect that they'll pay for this month either, for June. So with all courts being closed in Cincinnati in Cincinnati and in northern Kentucky, where my property is, it's kind of a bit of an issue, and I think tenants know this as well. Tenants, tend to find out this kind of stuff, and they want to use it to their advantage. Rent is $525 on this unit. When it's renovated, it'll be a lot more, but currently it's only $525. So I doubt that they don't have the money to pay. I think it's more of a decision not to pay, which is unfortunate. Especially seeing as I'm currently improving the property, and I'm making, I've already renovated the hallways. The next few days they'll be starting on the porch in the front and doing some things to the front of the house, to give it an even nicer feel, to give it that curb appeal, and just to make it a better place for everyone to live. So it's unfortunate that they've decided not to pay, but there's nothing I can do about it really, apart from try and get this eviction process started. So the good news is, after speaking with my lender, I had to do some research about what is considered for it to be falling under the CARES Act. I forwarded that information onto my lender, and by tomorrow I should have a letter for them saying that no, the loan doesn't fall under the CARES Act, my property doesn't fall under the CARES Act. So as soon as the courts open back up, I think it's supposed to be July 1st, I can start the process then and kind of get going with it at that point, and hopefully get them out. And that unit will need some renovation work as well, so sort of get that one doing as well. So that was a bit of a headache, but part of it. Another thing I did, I spoke with the leasing agent from the property management company because I wanted to see what the feedback was. I currently have 2 units that need renovating, that need lease up. So we've had a lot of viewings. From the feedback I was getting from her, is that we've had probably a viewing a day at least, if not more. We've got another 5 or 6 scheduled for this week, and there wasn't any particular feedback that I could really do much with. There was a couple saying that the pictures didn't give a fair representation of the unit, and the written description was also not a fair one. But that was just 1 or 2 reviews, so it wasn't a reflection of the whole all the people that visited the property and viewed the property. There was one good one. It's a great area, great property, but I guess it wasn't great enough for them to rent. But from speaking with the leasing agent, she was also telling me that this is widespread across all the properties that they manage, that there's a lot of viewings but hardly any applications. And honestly, we were trying to figure out why, but it didn't make any sense. I don't know if people are scared to move now. I don't know if people have money to move. I don't know, but I don't know why people would be looking. So we're still a little bit puzzled by that, trying to figure that out. But hopefully, people will, we've still got plenty of viewings, so hopefully someone will snag, or the right tenant. That's another thing that is very important when you're leasing up. It's easy to be impatient and just trying to get a warm body in there paying rent, but that can be a massive mistake, because the wrong tenant can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars, whereas a few weeks or a month, even if it has to be, of a unit sitting empty is better than having a bad tenant. So I'm more than willing to be patient with it and wait to find the right tenant. I did think about one thing. I did think about was perhaps providing Wi-Fi and having that. I think for young professionals, I think I got a quote for $150 for the whole building a month for Wi-Fi. So it's quite inexpensive. So I think that could be something that I might implement. We'll wait till the end of this week and maybe end of next week, see if we have any bites, any applications, and see where that goes. And then maybe I'll implement some free Wi-Fi as part of the lease agreement. So we'll see with that. Time will tell. I also finally got around. I got sent a 20 unit off market property. It's in Cincinnati. It's in the Norwood area of Cincinnati, by the main broker I work with. His name's JD. And he sent me a 20 unit. I think he sent me on Friday, perhaps. I was a little slow getting around to it, because in the email he told me they were looking for around $1 million for this property, $1 million. And pre-pandemic, it would have been something that I definitely would have, because Norwood is in a good area. It's in a growing area. It's quite a popular area as well. So I definitely would have been interested before, and I still am interested now. But the $1 million price tag kind of put me off, because just knowing what I know about what's happened with the pandemic has just made me a little hesitant to want to pay that kind of money. I think that the deals are coming in the future. I don't think now is necessarily a great time to buy, unless the deal makes a lot of sense. So I finally got around to analyzing that and underwriting that today, and it looks a solid property. They were saying that it was an 8 cap, and it sort of is. So on the trailing income and expenses, it kind of is, but you have to underwrite it and analyze it at how you're going to run it. And they had the previous taxes on it, so you have to assume that taxes are going to go up. So after I added in what they actually calculated for future taxes, the broker sent me what they thought the future taxes would be. So I added in there, and then it became a little bit over a 7 cap, because I wanted to add some more vacancy, wanted to add some more bad debt and some concessions, because I feel in the future, vacancy is definitely going to go up. Bad debt is going to go up, so people are not going to pay the full amount. There's going to be, people owing money, so that's definitely going to go up. And there's a good chance as well you might have to give some kind of concession. Half the first month's rent off, or I know during the last downturn they were giving free TVs or iPads and things like that. So with there being so much unknown now, I'd rather be on the conservative side and risk losing out on a deal than be a little bit aggressive and end up in a deal where in a year's time I'm having a lot of issues with vacancy, having a lot of issues with bad debt and concessions. So it initially was advertised as a value add deal, but right now, again, as well, I don't really want to underwrite anything as a value add. I want to assume whatever the rents are now is what they'll be in a year's time. And if anything, I want to underwrite a slight decline, a slight loss in rents. So, it doesn't pencil out at the mark, but I spoke with him today, and he said that the owner hasn't had any offers yet. I guess a lot of people are kind of seeing my point of view as well. That the investors are, cautious as well. And, that surprised me, to be honest, because this Norwood area of Cincinnati is a very in demand area. People really want to buy in this area. So I was surprised, but it also justified my thinking and my underwriting. So he's going to give me a little bit more feedback tomorrow. I'll send him over my underwriting. But you know, I think I'm closer to somewhere around 850, maybe even slightly less, to be honest with you. So there's a big discrepancy in price. So it all depends on the motivation of the seller on that one, right? If the seller isn't really motivated, there's no way he's going to come down 100, 150 grand on $1 million purchase. So that might be something that I pass on or just give it the wait and see. But yeah, it was nice to be sent a deal and to kind of look at it, because it really has been a big pause in deals and just transaction in the multifamily. You know, I know some people have been, but for the most part, you know, there's been the pause button's been hit. So I'm just kind of waiting, which is smart as well, because we're kind of waiting to see what happens. I want to wait and see what happens with any kind of stimulus money. You know, if the unemployment, the extra $600 unemployment check sort of dries up, and there is no extra rounds of stimulus, I think people are going to be hurting. I think rent collections across the board have been surprisingly good over the last few months. But you know, if that stimulus money sort of runs out, my personal opinion, and none of us knows, is that that's when, you know, we'll start to get in a bit of trouble. And it might not be the first month that it runs out, but by the second or third month after it runs out, I think that's when tenants will be struggling to pay, and owners will be a lot more motivated to sell. So it takes a while for these kind of things to trickle down, and it's not like the stock market where, you know, things are instantaneous. They take a while, but that's my opinion. So that's another reason why I'm a little gun shy, and I'm willing to wait and see, unless, like I said, the deal makes a lot of sense. And around, like I mentioned, you know, 850 or a little bit less, that it would make a lot of sense, because it is a great looking building. It needs renovating all inside, but that's something that, you know, further down the line that could be done. But I'd want to buy it where my returns, I would be happy with the returns day one, with, as I mentioned, those conservative underwriting. So yeah. Another thing I've been doing today as well, it's been quite a busy day today actually. Until I sat down and decided to do this video, I didn't realize how busy I'd sort of been. These days fly by now. So yeah, but I've been trying to decide what to do to the exterior of the front of the property. So I think I mentioned in some other videos, but the porch needs some work in the front, because it's, you know, one of the first things you walk up to, the wood. It's all wood. It's quite a nice porch. So you know, with things like that, I think I mentioned it, there's no really an ROI, a direct ROI on it. You know, you put stainless steel appliances in a unit, and you get a direct ROI on that. You put, you know, laminate flooring, you can kind of see the direct ROI on that, return on investment on that money. But with the outside, it's not so apparent. But at the same time, it is quite important, and it's something that I considered maybe might be an issue with the leasing. But it hasn't been mentioned once. I thought it might have been. That's why I wanted to speak with the leasing agent today. But she told me that wasn't brought up once. So might not necessarily be as important as I thought, but still, it's important that it's done and that it's nice, so that it brings people in. So by the curb appeal, and you know, people that live there, they feel like they've got a great place to live. So it's a little tricky. So there's some work that needs to be done on the railings, on the wooden railings on side. I'm going to be painting the floor of the porch, and then there's a little yard. So it's I guess the biggest thing for me was trying to decide how much to spend, because the quote I got for painting and repairing all that was $3,500 plus I think an extra $1,000 in labor. So nearly $4,500. So that's a lot of money on it. You know, this is a smaller property, and I still have another 4 units to renovate. So you know, it's got to make sense financially. Of course, you know, I ran the numbers before I bought this property, but sometimes with these older, I think this property is a 1910 properties. You know, things really do get out of hand quick. So it's important to try and make it as nice as possible, but at the same time be smart and make the right financial decisions for me as an investor on this property. So I think we're going to put some mulch in the front. There's a little yard there to put some mulch in there. There's a steel a metal fencing going around and some brick. Paint that. That'll make it pop a lot more. And then paint the porch, the floor of the porch, and then the posts and the railing. So I think all that, all in all, shouldn't be too expensive. We're putting new guttering as well, and new doors on the new front doors as well. So all those little things will just, make the property so much nicer. Give it that curb appeal, when you walk up to it, give it that feel. And then a little simple thing as well is we're going to add old-fashioned the post box. So right now the boxes are kind of ugly, but we're putting sort of the old black style post box there. So that'll also just little things like that can make a big difference, and something like that is inexpensive as well. So I've been speaking with my property manager and emailing the contractor as well to kind of get clarification, because he gave me some quotes, give me clarification on what that covered, what the work was done as well, and what the materials were, and etc. Just to get clarification as well, just to make sure that I understood what work was being done. Hopefully they're going to start that in the next few days. And then interesting as well, while I was speaking to that property, when I was there visiting a couple of weeks back, I met with one of the neighbors of the property and started speaking to her. And there's a property across the road from me. It's 18 units, and when I did the inspection November of last year, I could tell that it was in a bit of disrepair, and there was a few issues going on there. I think truthfully, it's a bit of a drug den. I think it's it's bringing down the whole street. It's not what anyone wants on that street. So the landlord is not taking the best of care. He's just putting any kind of tenants in there, and I think the SWAT team have been in there. The police are constantly called. I think I even witnessed a drug deal one day going down there. So just gives you an idea of what that property is. But to give you an idea of what the area is like, just up the street, maybe 7 or 8 houses down, there's two over $1 million homes there. Homes that have just been renovated. They're absolutely beautiful. There's a lot of smaller multifamily there. That's just that's really nice. That's getting high dollar amounts for rents, and it's just a really nice tree-lined street that's close to the center of Covington. So Covington as a whole is gentrifying. It's really developing. So this property is really out of place there. So from the get-go, I was really interested in purchasing this property and obviously renovating it to its former glory, and at the same time making a profit from that. But this one is a lot bigger and needs a lot more work. I think we've got to assume that it needs 2 brand new roofs. All the units would need renovating. Plus, there's a ton of deferred maintenance. Again, JD, the broker, got a hold of the owner, but the owner really wasn't interested in selling. Unfortunately, I was kind of how can I say it? He was rude, to be honest with you. He really wasn't interested in selling. Now, I spoke to the neighbor when we visited the property 2 weeks ago, and we started speaking about the property across the street, and her living right across the street from me, she saw everything that goes on there, and she's quite disturbed by everything that goes on there. So she's really been trying to get after the owner and using the code enforcement officer to kind of get after any violations and try and really put pressure on the owner to just take care of the property. Nothing crazy, just there's a lot of violations. So I spoke to her today, and she was telling me that there's 11 violations on the property, and long story short, that if he doesn't fix all of them, that his fines will be nearly $8,000. So he said that he's going to fix them, but he's yet to do that. And she told me that was at the start of the month, and he only has until the 18th. Today is the 9th, so he only has another 9 days to fix all these 11 violations, and he hasn't even started on any of them yet. So that was good to kind of know that. Not that I want any property in disrepair, and stress for anyone, but it's an interesting development that might mean that, you know, the owner isn't really willing to do the repairs, and he might choose to sell, hopefully, rather than do the work himself. And, you know, another thing, you know, with me mentioning this, the unemployment running out, is supposed to run out at the end of July. I think he told this lady that he already has 3 people that he wants to evict. So with the unemployment coming to an end at the end of July, possibly, you know, I'm sure a lot of his tenants are low income people who, you know, who benefited from the unemployment, who might not have been paying had they not got that extra 600 and the stimulus check. So when that comes to an end, he might be a property that's really hurting if people can't pay the rent. So we'll see. He might turn into a seller at that point, and hopefully I can, you know, buy that property from him. For, you know, obviously it has to make sense for me. I don't think they have any debt on the property, so it's not like they would be walking around with any. But, you know, I've got to take into account that I would probably need to turn over the whole tenant base, put a new tenant in every one of those units, put a new roof on each of those units, and they're quite they're very pitched roofs, and they've got all sorts of different contours and angles on them. So, you know, it's going to be an expensive roof. So, you know, you need to take this into account, as well as, you know, again, assuming that each unit and all the hallways are going to need to be renovated. So, you know, it's going to be quite capital intense to fix it up. It's going to be a lot of work, and, you know, obviously this is an older building as well, and with that, you know, you've got to allow a fudge factor just for stuff that's going to pop up. The more you open up with these older properties, the more you find. So, you know, it would have to be discounted for all those, plus for all the inconvenience of me having to do that, you know. So we'll see. He doesn't seem like a very reasonable person, but if there's enough motivation, we might be able to get him to sell. And, you know, that would be ideal for me, obviously owning right across the street. I'm very familiar with the area. I really like the area, and I'm very familiar with the area, so, you know, I have a good idea what rents will be, what expenses will be, and yeah, it just makes all the sense in the world if I can to buy there. So that's one. And then the last thing was I managed to upload my first YouTube interview. It was with a gentleman called Spencer Cornelia, a good friend of mine, who was recently on the Bigger Pockets podcast. Really enjoyed the interview. Excuse me. Really enjoyed the interview. The initial plan was to keep the interview to about 20 minutes, but it ended up going about 45 minutes because it was a fun interview. I just started talking, he started talking, and it was just, almost forgot that we were recording almost. It was just a fun interview. So that's how they should be, right? That's just free flowing and, yeah, just kind of natural. So from there, you know, I plan to do a lot more interviews and a lot more of these sort of blogging interviews. You know, I've listened to a few podcasts today, and just so happened that one couple that they were talking about doing the exact same thing, and they said that, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk, sorry if I butchered his name, you know, he's big on just document what you're doing, just video it. You know, it doesn't need to be the slickest thing in the world. It's just document your journey and what you're doing and what you're up to, and hopefully people find it interesting. So I hope you guys found it interesting. There'll be a lot more of these to come. But yeah, I find these fun, interesting, and it's fun to share kind of what my day-to-day looks like as a real estate investor. So if you've enjoyed this video, if you'd be kind enough to like, even subscribe, or add a comment, anything that you liked or you didn't like, maybe my hair you didn't like or you did like, I don't know. But yeah, so thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. There'll be a lot more to come, and stay tuned.